So we're going to talk today about freedom within boundaries, or preventative and detective controls for security-conscious organizations. About me, I'm Zach Koncir. I'm a practice lead at Source Group. I've been dealing with highly regulated environments for the last 3 years, and I've spent about 5 years building cloud things. And as you can see from my headshot, I'm extremely professional. Controls are for everyone. So cloud controls aren't something that just exists for large companies, right? We can all benefit from some sort of security control framework, whether you're the small startup or whether you're the large business, right? We see it all the time, you know. We put the creds in the S3 bucket. That's a great example. Somebody owns your account, you're done. It doesn't matter whether you're a startup or a large company. This is a risk for everybody, and we need to be able to track these controls. So the three models. We're just talking about cloud consumption here, right? So lift and shift migration or refactor in cloud first. As we shift sort of from left to right here, we're going to see the need for guardrails. So environments become more dynamic, right? We need to scale. We need to put in security controls for this dynamic consumption with less process built around it. So how do we do that? We do that through mostly consumable libraries, right? A consumable is just an opinion of how my company is going to consume some cloud process, right? And then we push that through a pipeline. So pipelines, we all do them, right? Infrastructure as code, blah, blah, blah. We're all doing this process. This is our preventative control to make sure things don't get pushed to the cloud platform that shouldn't be there. So speed versus regulation, right? This is a great example. So both of these pictures are me. One, I'm doing something dumb. One, I'm doing something a little more regulated, right? It's all about finding that balance. So detective controls, they're, verify first, trust but verify, right? Let the user take whatever action they want in most situations, knowing that all actions are always being audited. When we receive word of an unwanted event, immediate and automated remediation can take place. So go back to our S3 bucket example, right? This is a good example of a preventative control. We should always make sure that S3 buckets aren't, public facing, right? And then if we want to look at a more detective scenario, self-tainting ephemeral instances are a great example of that. If somebody logs into an instance, we tag it, we kill it, and we always make sure that we're going back to that clean baseline. So the problem with detective controls is it's still an emergent technology. It can still take minutes or hours for events to bubble up in your cloud platform, and we can't have buckets open or improper configuration of internet-facing security groups for even a second. So this is, instead of, as maturity increases in organizations, app teams will want more control over the platforms they're deploying onto. So detective controls become much more prevalent in this model, as individual app teams are able to build their own deployment pipelines and perform their own tool selection. So here we're talking about, instead of all preventative versus all detective, you got to find the balance, right? And we call that above the line and below the line. So below the line services, maybe we use preventative controls around our network, and then we use a detective control around our above the line services. So difficulty with a preventative control like Lambda, right? Lambda is a service. We don't want our platform team to be worried about every combination of every configuration. We just want them to build. The platforms are changing. So we're actually building these control features right into the platform now. Policy controls are enabling customers to centrally filter out actions they wish to block or just audit based on those behaviors, right? Detective mechanisms can be used for audit to verify things that are in production are compliant, even if preventative pipelines are in place. So eventually this could get to a stage where governing bodies have standard mechanisms for performing audits. Give them access to your cloud platform, and they can audit it out of band, right? This is a much better process than, like, let's say the decks that we create to try to convince the auditor that we're good actors. Thank you.